Well, welcome everyone. My name is Sarah Anello. I am co-president of APRA DC MD, and we are here today to talk about a critical subject right now in AI adoption with Scott Rosencrans, talking about humans and AI. And we are so thankful for Donor Search by Evertrue, their continued support of our chapter, and being a founding cornerstone sponsor of DCMD. Scott, why don't you go ahead and get us started?
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Sarah. I'm very excited to be here. I spent my starting career in the nonprofit sector down in the Metro DC Baltimore area, so I always enjoy working with this group. And I started as a prospect researcher, so APRA has a very special place in my heart. For those of you who don't know me, I am Scott Rosenkrantz. I'm head of AI growth at Evertrue. Like I mentioned, I started as a prospect researcher about 15 years ago at the Archdiocese of Baltimore. I kind of fell into how much data was being tracked and organized, but not really leveraged. The organization at the time was just using it to report on things that had happened to date, but not on what can we do with it in the future? How can we use it directionally or help us to be more efficient with our work? So I started playing around with data analytics, predictive modeling along the way. Partnered with Nathan Chappell, who's my co-author and co-host of the Fundraising AI podcast, and we got into AI predictive modeling back in 2017, 18, so almost 10 years ago now. Before AI was cool, before ChatGPT was on everybody's minds day in and day out. And then we've seen AI evolve over the past decade. It's a completely different tool now. It's used differently. There are different use cases, different perspectives of it in the world, how it's impacting organizations for better or worse. And so the thing that's remained true, even though the capability has changed, is adoption is still a struggle. Nonprofits of all different shapes and sizes, for profits even, have challenges with adoption. So today, what we're going to be talking about is that it's not a tool that's going to get you to be successful with AI. It's leaning into who you are as an individual, right? Keeping the human centered, finding that line between where AI should and could be of use and where humans should be front and center, and identifying some use cases where that might be applicable and how you can lean into things that make you uniquely human for the better of your organization and those that you serve. So, very excited to be here. Again, head of AI growth. I'm a certified AI governance professional. I co-authored Nonprofit AI right back here. I co-host the Fundraising AI podcast. And so you could say I think about AI a lot. And there's a lot to think about. For better or worse, AI is here. It's everywhere. You can't really turn on the news or talk to a colleague or talk to your kids or friends or neighbors without hearing about AI and what it is and all the things it can do and all the harms that it has and questions on, is it going to save the world or is it going to destroy everything we know and love? Right? A lot of questions come up. And these questions are answered differently depending on who you ask or what time of day you ask them or what they had for breakfast. So there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear of missing out, a lot of feeling like you're playing catch up, but also for the nonprofit sector specifically, there's a lot of concerns of should we even use it, right? Things that people are talking about with AI are uh, harming, underprivileged individuals or sectors, right? Or environmental concerns, right? Deep fakes, biases, vulnerable communities, all these things that there are nonprofits centered around protecting against those things, right? And so how are we comfortable as a sector using the tools that in some cases fundamentally work against what we're trying to set out to do, what our missions are, right? So there's a lot to grapple with. A lot of people will try to kind of make sense of artificial intelligence by saying, yeah, it's like the electricity, or it's like the computer, or it's like the internet, right? And it is like those things, but it also isn't really like those things. It's like those things because you can't go back to how the world was before computers were invented, or before the internet was invented, or electricity was harnessed. You don't think about how you're going to use those tools day in and day out. You use your computer to get things done, right? That's part of your day. It's part of the work that you do. The internet is running in devices that you might not even be thinking about connecting everything that you're doing so that your temperature, your thermostat can turn on at the right time and warm things up before you go into your office for the day, whatever it is. Like all these things are working all the time behind the scenes and so integral to what we do that we don't even think about. They become commonplace. They become the norm, the standard. And so artificial is going to be like that. It's going to be less about the specific use case. It's going to be more about how it's just running all the time behind the scenes and something that we're leveraging in our day to day. But it also isn't like any of those previous technologies because once electricity was harnessed, it really hasn't changed much. Maybe it's a little bit more safe and efficient. And now you can carry portable power packs in your pocket that could charge your devices for days, which you couldn't do in the past. But electricity is still electricity. Computers are maybe smaller and faster and cheaper, but they still kind of do the same thing that they did. The internet is, there's Web point 1 and or Web 1.0 and Web 2.0, but it's still basically the same. It hasn't been much evolution, maybe a little bit of linear change over time, but nothing drastic like what we've seen with generative AI more specifically, right? Artificial intelligence is an exponentially growing technology. The capabilities of what generative AI could do 3 months ago, 6 months ago, 9 months ago is nothing compared to what it's going to be able to do next week or next month. It's constantly changing. And so it's hard for us as humans to keep up, right? Even me, like I'm in it all day. Like, this is my job, thinking about this and talking about this and learning about it. And it's still hard for me to keep up. Sometimes it's hard. I feel like I'm never going to be up to date because it's always moving so fast. Where do I even begin, right? Um, and then it's also able to do things that we just couldn't do before, right? Like there's predictive AI, there's generative AI, there's now agentic AI. Like it's hard to wrap our hands around what this technology is, which makes it more confusing. It really just doesn't make sense. Like everybody's talking about the AI thing, but I'm still having a hard time understanding like what is it? It's in your vacuums and in your toothbrushes and everything. So like, how do we even begin to make sense of it? But for the nonprofit sector, like there's already enough for us to be focusing on. Last year was a challenging year. There were federal grant challenges, right? Federal funding changes, significant federal funding changes. There were layoffs. There were nonprofits closing their doors. There were more budget constraints than we've seen previously. Like 2026 isn't looking to be that much stronger than it was last year. And so, how do you even pick your head up from what you need to be focusing on day in and day out to try to make sense of this other technology that's confusing in its own right? When nonprofit leaders are asked about their organizations, two-thirds of them are expressing challenges in keeping and retaining staff, highly qualified staff, right? We've always been asking people to do more with less, right? And hey, maybe we're not going to pay you great, but you're going to be doing great work. And so that's a reason to stay here. You're just going to be doing a lot of great work. You're going to be wearing 7, 12 different hats, right? The thing that you wanted to do in your role has probably evolved so many times and taken on new tasks and responsibilities that like you can't even make sense of it anymore sometimes. In 2018, I'm sorry, 2022, nonprofit leaders were asked, how many of you are expecting a budget surplus? And in 2022, 55% of them were. Fast forward to 2025, 18% are expecting a budget surplus. That's less than 1 in 5. So where are all these dollars going? We're constantly seeing more reports of donors down, dollars down, this generosity crisis compacted with this burnout crisis. Like it is a challenging year. And yeah, you have some philanthropic superheroes like Mackenzie Scott or Melinda French Gates that come in and drop, seven, eight-figure gifts to nonprofits, sometimes without even letting them know. Like, there might be some who receive these gifts in this webinar right now. But even that isn't a guarantee that it's going to solve all the problems, right? There's an example of a nonprofit organization called Benefits Data Trust. They were a $30 million organization. They helped about 200,000 individuals navigate public health benefits, like an incredible need, trying to work through web pages and forms and do all this stuff so that they get the benefits they need for healthcare, for day-to-day living. They received a unrestricted $20 million gift from Mackenzie Scott, and 2 years later, they ended up closing their doors. They couldn't keep up with budget constraints, with the challenges, with staffing issues. And so that gift that came in, you would think like, oh, that's it, like everything is solved. But no, like that's still not a guarantee. And so the people that were relying on this organization, where do they go to? Who do they go to now to get the benefits that they were receiving, to help them navigate this system that's just complex and convoluted? And so it's not just about us working at a local mom and pop shop. Maybe there's a Lowe's or a Home Depot that's going to take it over or something along those lines. What we do here matters. The work that we do in the nonprofit sector matters. We are humans caring for humans through the generosity of other humans. And so we need to set out differently than the for-profit sector. We can't just follow their path and move blindly into adopting AI and leveraging AI and letting people go because agents are doing all this amazing stuff. Like, we need to be very diligent in how we do the work that we do to make sure that we're still caring for the people who need the care and who rely on us. So I don't know if any of you read this book. It's a great book. I'd strongly recommend it. And obviously, a little biased because I'm close friends with the author. But if you haven't read it, in the nonprofit sector, it gives a great depiction of how we got here. How do we get to fewer donors, fewer dollars? It talks a little bit about the burnout crisis, but primarily talking about funding challenges and how we're competing against for-profits for trying to get the same attention from individuals. And those individuals are just overwhelmed by noise, by outreach, by saying, hey, come join us, or hey, use your dollars here, or hey, help us make a gift, or whatever it is. Like, they're just overwhelmed. And so we're competing this uphill battle against for-profits who have unlimited resources and limited R&D budgets. So I strongly recommend this book, but the most important thing that stuck out to me in this book is the quote that AI is the only scalable solution to reversing the generosity crisis. Now, I firmly believe this to be true. But let's unpack that for a little bit, right? Why is it the only scalable solution? Well, you talk about generative AI, there's predictive AI, right? Generative, Microsoft does this study with about 30,000 individuals around 30 different countries that are leveraging generative AI tools. Again, these tools are usually like $20 a month, and asking them, how has it impacted your work? And you can see the numbers here. It's allowing them to do what they want to do more efficiently, faster, focus on the important work, feel more creative. And when you're able to do those things, when you're able to kind of offload some of the things that get in the way of you doing the work that you want to do, you feel better about your work, right? Sometimes you're even doing more of it, and like, it's not leading to burnout because you're so energized, you're so focused and just really love what you're doing. Like, it's the passion that's pushing you through continuing to do that work because you get to focus on the stuff that you want to do. But on the other side, there's another study, the Social Impact Staff Retention Report. They update it every year. They ask nonprofit employees about, how are you feeling about your work, about your job? 70% say that they're likely to leave their job. 65% are considering leaving the sector altogether. And the number one resource that I know we've all felt is they're overworked and under-resourced. So you have this challenge on the bottom of too much work, not enough capability. Then you have these tools that allow other people to feel more creative, feel more efficient, feel more energized about what they're doing, and underpaid, absolutely underpaid. Like, these two go hand in hand, right? That's not scalable. Hiring more people isn't going to allow you to feel more resourced, especially when there's not enough dollars to go around to resource more people, right? So like we need to look at other avenues for allowing us to get all the work that needs to be done to actually get it done. And then on the predictive side, we've worked with organizations with our tool that move a donor from $5,000 to $50,000 in a 2 week span because the signals, the data points leading up to it are saying this person is highly engaged, just often overlooked. Organizations are able to increase their revenue significantly by decreasing the people that they're mailing to significantly, all by drawing attention to the right people and focusing on the right people at the right time. Which allows gift officers to save their time because they're calling people who actually want to have a conversation, want to have a meeting with you, want to learn more about what you're doing and how they can help. And response rates to qualification is increasing as well. It's all like I have yet in my 15 years in the nonprofit sector, I have yet to meet a nonprofit that has enough staff to manage everyone in their database. And so we keep leaning back into the tools and data points of saying like, hey, this is the person I want to focus on now, or this person should be prioritized. But we as humans are limited in how much we can assess. I used to build predictive models, and even then, like before getting into artificial intelligence, these models were based on like 10 to 15 to 20 data points max. But trying to identify how someone's showing up in a relationship with just 20 data points, you're leaving a lot on the table. And so I wasn't giving the organizations I was working with, giving them the best information because I couldn't harness all the information that they had. I couldn't make sense of everything and all these underlying patterns, all these things going on behind the scenes because I was limited in my mental capability and the technical capability I had at the time before, again, artificial intelligence. So we see AI can impact the burnout crisis. We see AI can impact the generosity crisis. But just because it AI is the only scalable solution doesn't mean that it's easy, right? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it. Everybody would be, AI first, AI native. Like they would be reversing generosity crisis. They would be harnessing the tools to find more donors, raise more dollars every year, right? And retention increasing. They would not feel overworked or under resourced. Like everything will be golden age. Everything will be perfect, but that's not the case, right? In working with organizations trying to leverage AI, these numbers keep coming up and up. And Boston Consulting Group just did it. MIT did a report on this as well. But what leads to successful AI adoption is probably not what you would think. It's shown that only 10% of this is impacted by the tools you use, right? So whether you're using generative AI like ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or whatever it is, or using a predictive AI tool, and whether it's built specifically for you or using a generic tool, whatever it is, like at best, that's going to get you 10% of the way. The data feeding into that is only another 20%. So, I mean, who here has a perfect database, right? I have yet to meet a nonprofit or even a for-profit for that matter that has a perfectly clean database, right? Best case scenario you still only have a 30% chance of seeing success with AI if you have a perfect database and a clean tool built specifically for you. The remaining 70% is culture, it's people, it's us, right? It's working together as a team, it's leadership buy-in. MIT recently did a study saying that only 5% of organizations, these are for-profit organizations, are are defining their AI implementations as successful. The top three reasons for why those other 95 are not successful are lack of leadership buy-in, change management challenges, and concern with trying a new tool. We as humans love our habits. We love structure. We love knowing what we know, right? And not moving to something that we just aren't familiar with. We have our processes, we have our routines. When I was a prospect researcher, I knew exactly what tools I was going to find all the information I could possibly find. I had my little worksheet, checked everything off, I got it all done. Moving to something that's maybe unproven, maybe new, and changes all the time, like it's hard to make that shift. If I know what to expect on this side, I don't know what to expect over here, it's going to be hard for me to make that transition, right? This is where AI adoption lives and breathes. It's all in that culture. It's all working with organizations, working with teams and individuals to say, I see you. Like, we're not just trying to replace individuals, right? But how do we harness this technology together? And you wouldn't hire someone that doesn't know how to use a computer, right? So we've again already gone over some of these hurdles of technological advancements to leverage it so that we can focus on more important work. And so this is just the next thing, but this is going to be a much stronger hurdle because it changes all the time, right? Virtuous and Fundraising AI did a similar survey with just nonprofits, and they're saying that we're saying that 92% of organizations have used AI, but only 7% are seeing success. So it's mirroring what MIT is showing. And the problem, more importantly, is that if a for-profit closed their doors, another for-profit is going to fill in that gap immediately. Again, if my mom and pop local store here closes down, if they can't meet demand, if they can't stay up in the current climate, then maybe I have to drive another 10 minutes to get the hammer or get the tools that I need. It's not going to impact my day to day all that much. But if a nonprofit closes their doors, who is there to pick up the gap, fill that gap, take care of those individuals? So it's more than just you and I. It's more than just us figuring out how am I going to use it in my day to day. It's us working with those around us to make sure that we're doing the best that we can to help those who are relying and dependent on us. This is for them. And so if nonprofits are human centric, which we talked about, nonprofits are driven by humans, helping humans in most cases for most missions, and doing so through the generosity of humans. AI adoption is also human centric. It's about humans. You can't have AI adoption without humans front and center. There's this author that I read, Pascal Bornet. He's a AI author. He writes a lot on artificial intelligence, on big data, new technologies. And he has this quote in one of his most recent books called Irreplaceable, which I also strongly recommend. In a world where AI can do almost anything, the greatest value is in being uniquely human. So I sat with that for a long time. Again, being in the nonprofit sector and figuring out, like, just because AI can do all these things doesn't mean it should, doesn't mean we should just go let it run wild and manage everything, manage donor relationships, manage communication, like manage everything just because it can. So what does this mean for us? And after sitting with this for a while and playing with it over the past few months, I've put it into a human framework. What are things that make us as humans uniquely human that AI will never be able to do? And if we lean into those things, that's where we set ourselves apart. That's what the world needs, right? Because AI can do all these things, but there are certain things that it will never be able to do. That's what the world needs. That's what the nonprofit sector needs. And that's the foundation of getting to AI adoption. Without this framework, the organizations we're working in will never be able to adopt AI because, again, the foundation is humans. So the first one is humility. Knowing that you don't have all the answers, you can't do this alone, but you already know that because you're here, right? You go to webinars, you go to conferences, you learn from others. You know that there's other information out there. So how do you gather that? How do you synthesize that? How do you put that to use? If you don't have humility and you think you already know everything, then you wouldn't be here, right? But humility also leads to innovation by thinking, hey, I've been doing this thing this one way. Maybe there's another way. Let me take a step back and think about things a little bit differently. Let me try to solve this problem a little bit differently and try to learn from others who have maybe done this before or done something similar. And how can I apply that to my day? Humility leads to curiosity, which is what leads to innovation. So, like, if we aren't humble, if we aren't vulnerable in what we don't know, then we're never going to learn. We're never going to progress. We're never going to evolve as individuals, let alone organizations. But on the flip side, AI has no humility, right? I'm sure we all have countless examples of where AI has had a hallucination and said something wrong. You call it out, and you're like, oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Great catch. I can't believe you caught that. Great job. I won't do it again. You know it's going to do it again, right? Every time that they release a new model, especially more recently, their hallucination rates have gone down. There's something out there always going to challenge, but there's always going to be some form of hallucination, right? If AI is perfect and it gave you exactly what it was, it's losing part of that creativity. So they want to have some of that creativity. Creativity allows for hallucinations. So we're always going to have to be vigilant and diligent in looking at what's coming out because we need to make sure that if we're representing this as our words or our language or whatever it is from our organization, that it needs to represent us well. AI is not going to learn on its own. If your boss caught you, you made a mistake on a report or something like that, and your boss called you out, and it was probably an embarrassing situation, like I assure you, you're not going to make that mistake again. You learn from that, and it's all by having that humility. The next part is uniqueness. There are a number of people in this webinar. We have 30 people in this webinar. That's 30 different strengths and weaknesses and perspectives and worldviews and lived experiences, right? I have been leading the Donor Search AI, our predictive modeling team, for the last year or so, and having done it worked in this space for kind of 10 years on predictive modeling. I thought I had in my head, like, oh, we're running into challenges. This is what we need to do. If I just plowed ahead with what I thought we needed to do, I would have missed the mark because I'm only thinking through my lens. I'm not leveraging the other 10 people on my team with their own perspectives, with their own conversations that they've sat in or experiences of a similar challenge, but maybe tweaked a little bit. And so I would have completely missed the mark and fumbled that resolution if I didn't gather their perspective. So many times they've provided insight into like, oh, I can't believe I didn't think about that, right? But it's the unique perspective of each individual that we need to be collaborating with. We learn from others as well, right? We learn from people who are a little bit further ahead, but also a little bit further behind, just how people think differently, right? And so we want to be able to harness that within our group. Everyone that you work with is kind of the expert in their role for their organization. No one else can be that expert except for them because that's what they do day in, day out, right? You know that if you have a CRM challenge, you go to your CRM guru, or if you have an Excel problem, you go to your Excel wizard, right? Like there are certain people that have certain strengths and they just know what they know and know it so well, better than anyone else. AI is not all that unique. They're all basically trained on the same data sets. All generative AI tools are basically trained on the same data sets, all everything on the internet. They all have the same goals. The goal of generative AI is to keep you engaged, right? So like when it's telling you, hey, great job, this is the best thing I've ever heard or ever written or whatever it is, it's doing that because it wants to keep you engaged. That's its goal. It also wants to be right some of the time, most of the time, it wants to keep you happy. But like its main thing from the shareholders, the stakeholders of OpenAI and Anthropic is to keep you engaged. Because if you're engaged with them, then they're making money. So it's not all that unique. It will never be unique. By design, it cannot be unique. They're all going to be generally the same thing. There's going to be a little bit of different, flavor and calibration that each one of them have, but you can get Anthropic to basically or Claude to basically do what ChatGPT does, or close enough with enough prompting and enough calibration on your own end. Like they're all kind of the same tool. They all kind of do the same thing. And if they don't do the same thing right now, give it a couple weeks, couple months, and they're gonna be doing the same thing. And ChatGPT will catch up to Nano Banana Pro, whatever it is. They're not that unique. Humans are all unique. There are no two people in this world that are exactly the same, have exactly the same mental process, thinking, perspectives, whatever it is. So, like, we will always be unique. Meaning, when I think about meaning in this way, I think about it two different aspects. One is finding meaning in relationships, right? Finding value. I bet if I asked you to all think about a loved one or a friend or even a donor, right? Like a donor story and why they gave. If you sat, closed your eyes, and thought for a minute, like you would start to feel something inside. You would start to feel warm inside, and a smile will be brought to your face. Like there is meaning in that. You find value in that. AI can't do this. Even with again, my colleague, when he started building predictive AI tools 10 years ago, he tells a story of when he was in the room when he had the idea of for-profits are using predictive AI. Why aren't we using it in the nonprofit sector? I've heard that story countless times. I can basically say it verbatim, but I was not there. So I don't have that meeting. I just know the words. My wife has a relationship with her father. Like I don't have that relationship. So even though if I say it, like that's not my meaning. The other part of meaning is purpose. We're all in the nonprofit sector. We could probably all be making more money in the for-profit sector, right? But we're here because this is where our purpose is. This is where we find value for ourselves. We enjoy doing good and making a difference and making an impact. You could probably do a similar role for a for-profit organization, make a lot more money doing kind of the same thing. But at the end of the day, you're selling widgets or like you're not making a difference. And so that's what leads us to deal with the challenges we're seeing, deal with the being overworked and under resourced, deal with being underpaid, deal with the generosity crisis, all the challenges that we're seeing. Like we do it because there's enough part of us that feels good in what we're doing. AI will never have that. AI has no feelings. AI has no relationships. AI doesn't really care, right? It never will care. It's not thinking about you. It's never pinging you saying like, hey, just thinking about you today. Just hope all is well, right? Or, I thought about our conversation from the other day and just wanted to say, I really appreciate you. Like AI will never have that. We as humans have that. So we need to hold on to that, to harness that, especially in relationships with donors, right? We can't offload that to an AI tool because what is that showing them? They're like, we just don't really care about their time. They're not of enough importance to us for us to spend our human time front and center with them. We're just going to leverage a tool to manage that relationship for us. You wouldn't do that with your spouse, right? Your family, right? You're doing that with you're not going to do that with donors either, right? So you want to manage that human to human relationship. Authenticity is just the expression of those previous three things. It's speaking your voice, speaking your language, speaking your experiences, your vulnerability, what you don't know, what you have questions with, concerns with, what you find value in, the relationships that mean something to you. It's being authentic in that. Again, I couldn't tell someone else's story. Even if I say the same exact words, I couldn't tell it authentically because I wasn't there. AI will never be authentic. AI has no perspectives, has no worldviews, has no meaning, doesn't find value in anything. It will never, ever be authentic. That is something that is only human, only human. Only we can do this. Last one is nurturing. You're all on teams. You all work with others. None of you work in a complete silo by yourself, managing an entire nonprofit fundraising shop. We have to nurture this in others. We have to allow others to have a psychologically safe space to express their humility, express their vulnerability, express their thoughts, their ideas, their ways of trying something different, express what means something to them, what was valuable to them, what they find that meaning in. Be authentic in their voice. We need to make sure that others also feel the same way so that, again, we can come together. AI is not nurturing. AI may sound nurturing, it may sound empathetic, but it does not care. It is not designed to care. It will never be designed to care. Does not have those emotions. It will get better at mimicking it and sounding like it, but it does not care. There are way too many stories of people harming themselves or others because of what an AI chatbot told them to do. Of people finding themselves in relationships with an AI chatbot that will convince them to commit suicide. Say, finally, you and I can be together. That is wildly not nurturing. No human would do that, right? No human would say that to another person. So this is another line in the sand of what AI cannot do that we must hone in on, what we must harness as individuals for ourselves, for our team, for our sector, for those that we're caring for. And not only does this work well for this framework, right, which makes it easy, but the World Economic Forum says that there's a 45% increase year over year in jobs for emotional intelligence. This is emotional intelligence. Seeing this in other people, being vulnerable, being able to express your perspectives, your opinions, your thoughts, your weaknesses, leaning on others, expressing what you care about, seeing that in others, nurturing that in others, being authentic. That is all emotional intelligence. As AI can do more and more and more, those technical skills become less valued because now I can code, right? Now I can be an incredible artist and come up with these images that are in my head in a matter of seconds, right? There's no heart in them. There's no meaning in them, but it's an image. It's right there. I don't have to pay anybody to do it. I don't have to, find a marketing team to go do that for me. I could have done that easily, right? So the skill that we used to value, those skills are decreasing. The interpersonal skills, the need for that is increasing. And again, we have a better opportunity to do this than for profits do. You see on the news massive layoffs. CEOs of big tech companies are laying off tens of thousands of people all at once because they're not concerned about the people. They're just focused on dollars and tech. Like they don't care about this. This is something that we are different. We need to continue to be different. And so we need to lean into these things. But how do you actually do it? Right? That's all sounds well and good, but like how do you put this into practice? So tying each one of these to something that you can start doing today, working with your organization to do today, lunch and learns. Bring people in that have tried something different, that are deploying use cases that could impact other organizations or other individuals in the organization. Even if it's not the same role, like I learn from people who have a complete different job than me just because of their thinking, the way that they think, the way they approached a challenge, I can apply that approach as well. The important thing with lunch and learns is don't just show the output. Don't just have someone go up there and say, hey, this is what I created with AI. Isn't this wonderful? Like, isn't this amazing? Have them show the process that they went to go through that, the wins and the losses, the mistakes that they made, the horrible output that they got back, and how did they get to this final end result working through all that iterative process of going through, that's not exactly what I wanted. I wanted more bullet points, or I wanted it to be a friendlier tone, or I wanted it to be shorter or longer, whatever it is. Show the process to get there, focus less on the outcome itself. Because anybody can get an outcome. But if you're just looking at the initial outcome, the initial output of a generative AI tool, and you're not liking what you're seeing, if you haven't been exposed to that change in thinking, to adapt it, to tweak it, to refine it, then you're just going to see that initial outcome and be like, well, this sucks. I'm not going to use this. Like, I don't understand why everybody's talking about it. Like, it's such a big deal. Like, this is garbage. I can write better than this. So have people walk through where things went wrong and how they brought it back to that final output that they got. Uniqueness, AI committees. These are such a big thing as we see more organizations lead to finding AI governance policies and moving into this AI adoption, how it could be used. Getting people to come together that are both skeptics and all in, because all those perspectives are valuable, right? People who are all in might say like, yeah, let's just use it for everything. Why not? There's this cool use case of AI. Like, absolutely, let's try it. Again, we need to think differently. In our organizations, we need to think differently. And so we need to have people to help draw that line in the sand of where can AI be used and where should it be used? Where do we keep humans front and center so that way we aren't just offloading everything to an easy tool because it's easy and cheap, but we're putting value in where we need to put that value. So AI committees can be in the form of governance committees who are focusing on how to deploy this ethically, responsibly, beneficially, and then steering committees who are more focused on the use cases. Governance will be what can we do, what can't we do? Like, don't ever put private data into a ChatGPT tool, right? And then how the steering committee is, here's a specific use case that you might want to try. Here are different platforms that we're using. Here are the prompts that we put together, or the context engineering that we're using, so that everybody can leverage it. So those two different perspectives, but people of all different voices coming together so that your voices can be heard for the betterment of your organization and, again, the people that you're caring for. This is this one is a hill that I will die on. We need to keep AI informational and keep humans relational, right? AI is great at synthesizing information, at making decisions, at finding patterns that we aren't able to find. It is not great at all in connecting with a person, in seeing that person, in resonating with something that they said, and remembering how that person felt, or the body language, or seeing what made them smile or what made them tear up. That's not what AI cares about. It cares about output, cares about data. So let AI manage, let it handle a lot of those decision-making things. Obviously, be kept in the loop. Don't let it run wild, but be a part of this. As AI becomes more evolved and we trust it more and trust outputs more, and we continue to try out new processes, like, there will be more that it can do. But no matter how much it can do, let us focus on the relational use cases. Let us draw that line in the sand and keep that as a very specific guardrail of where it should not be used. Authenticity. Again, I was sharing this with Sarah as we started. Um, I hate writing. I hate writing so much. I like numbers. I like data. I don't like writing. But I'm on LinkedIn a lot. I use AI to help write my LinkedIn posts, but I'm not using it to help think about my AI posts. I'll have an idea, something that I've been thinking about that's been rattling around in my brain. I have like an analogy, or how I want to put it together. And I give that to my Perplexity tool, and I have it run through a couple different scenarios, or help polish it, help clean it up, help make it a little bit more impactful. But like, it's my thought, it's my ideas. It's generated from me. I just use it to make it a little bit more polished and clean and for LinkedIn, right? It's my thought partner. It's not my thinker. If I was having it manage all of my LinkedIn content, that wouldn't be my authentic voice. That would sound like everyone else on LinkedIn, because that's what it's gathering from. That's what it's pulling from. Just all generic voices to find that middle ground of commonality, right? If I was doing that, I would just be throwing slop out there, right? I would just be contributing to the AI noise that's out there already. I want it to be my ideas, my thoughts, my perspectives, my experiences, just a little bit cleaner, a little bit better written than what I could have done on my own. But I'm leaning into my authenticity when I'm doing this. Same thing for your organizations. You know your story so well of your mission, of how you've impacted others, how you helped others, why people find the reason to give to you. You know that. Maybe it could be a little bit polished, or it could be tweaked a little bit for this type of person versus this type of person, right? But don't let AI manage all those stories together. Feed it that information, feed it that context, find that commonality in there, and then let it just make those tweaks for person A versus person B, right? But keep the authenticity of the individual in that front and center. And then nurturing. I know it's tough to think about failure days, but failure days are the concept of where, again, similar to lunch and learns, we don't focus on the outcome, we focus on the process. We have uh, organizations who are saying, hey, today, or for the next hour, for the next 2 hours, try whatever you can try. Try something that you've been thinking about in your head with a generative AI tool that you don't know how it's going to perform. You don't know if it's going to work out well. We might not use the output, but just go through the process of trying and tell us how it failed. Lean into that failure. Because if you don't lean into that failure, you're not going to learn. If people don't feel safe trying something new, if they're only feeling safe if the outcome is perfect, then they're going to keep doing what they do, right? They're going to keep digging their heels in the ground of like, well, I can't, there's no opportunity for risk. I can't try something new because I don't know how it's going to perform. So I'm just going to stay with what I've been doing. We need to have that opportunity for risk, right? Because that's where, again, innovation comes. That's where change comes. That's where evolution comes, right? And so allowing for some of those opportunities where people feel, Ruthie, I love that, a ton from failures, right? If you don't know, I think Edison said it best. I didn't fail 10,000 times. I just learned 10,000 ways to not make a light bulb, right? Something along those lines. Uh, so that's where we learn. And people need to feel safe in order to do this, in order to try. So they aren't doing it like under, the cover of night or under their desk or something, but like it's encouraged by the organization, encouraged by the team leader. Like, hey, it's okay. Failure's good because we learned from that. If they don't feel safe, or if they feel like if I show my flaws or if I mess up this process, there's this constant thought of like AI is going to replace me. Like they are just going to buckle down and continue to do what they've been doing. And so again, nurture that psychologically safe space. What can you do as an individual? Start small. Don't do everything, right? That's the problem with AI. Like I've been thinking about a lot of death by a thousand use cases. There is never, there's no shortage of use cases of how you could use AI. Like you go anywhere and there is tons of use cases like, oh, you could do it this or you could do that. Like you can't do everything all at once. Just start somewhere. Start one task that's like really bothering you that you just hate doing. For me, it wasn't my first task, but like I hate doing expenses. I travel a lot for conferences and my expenses just build up. I let them build up for 6 months at a time. My company hated me, right? But it's because I don't want to sit there and just go through this task. So I figured out a way, or I sat down enough time to dedicate towards how can I leverage AI to just help me with this. Maybe it doesn't do it start to finish. Maybe there are some flaws, maybe there's some errors, but like it is a much simpler process now than it was before. It's constantly managing, scouring my emails for receipts, or I send it a picture and it'll compile it into it was a meal or it was I was here and all these different things, like running against my calendar to see where I was. That's a small task. That's one task, right? But it's something that I hated so much that I never did. And it just became like the bane of my existence. So think about something like that and just try it. Just see what you can do. It might, again, don't expect AI to take care of everything start to finish, but see if you can just break it up into chunks. And if it can handle one chunk, that's a great start. And then start going through different things. And no, I kept that one to myself. Granted, I was the only one who was going, 6 months without doing my expenses. I kept that vision to myself. So. How can AI help? I have a post-it note above my desk that says, "How can AI help?" You say, "Can AI help?" And I realized that I was putting myself into a binary position of saying yes or no, right? But if I just go with the assumption instead of "How can AI help?" then it's up to me to figure out how, right? Again, it might not do the whole thing, but it might do a part of it, right? And so I'm more willing to try to just think about things differently by having this presented front and center on how can it help me. 1 hour per week. Just try 1 hour per week to learn something new, to watch YouTube videos. I have a whole queue of YouTube videos of people telling like new tools of Perplexity. That's a big one that I use. Perplexity Computer and agents. Like, just try. Just if you don't dedicate that time to either learning or testing or trying, you're going to be exactly where you are a year from now, right? So just dedicate some time to make sure that you're always seeing what's out there and seeing what's possible. I love this one. Ask AI to help you use AI. AI is creative, right? Granted, like it has different levels of creativity, but it comes up with out of the box thinking. And so go in it and say, "Hey, I'm a prospect researcher for this organization. Here's our mission. Here's like where we are geographically. These are my tasks and my roles and how I spend my days. Give me 30 ways that I can use generative AI to be more efficient with my work, or just leverage some of the things that I just don't like doing, right? Some of those ideas might be great. Some of those might be crap. But if you don't like any of those 30 ideas, then say, give me another 30, give me another 150. You can continually go. Like AI is never going to roll its eyes at you. It's never going to laugh at you. It's never going to talk about you to your colleagues behind your back. Like lean into that. Let it do all that stuff so that you can just go through and cherry pick like, oh, that's interesting. Maybe it's not exactly what it said, but I can tweak it a little bit over here, and then you figure out how to actually get started. And then iterate, 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 always, constantly. That expense agent that I use, it's gone through about 7 different versions, right? Because I'm always thinking like, right, now that I handled this chunk, what about if I try this thing? Or maybe it's not working as quickly as I want to because I thought about it differently, or new capabilities came out with tools. But like, always go back and try something new, right? Always go back and tweak and refine and reprocess and retry things that you tried before, but with now new models have new capabilities. So like, constantly be seeing how you can do things differently. Fundraising AI, I don't know how many of you have heard of it, but it's a free organization built by nonprofits and people in the nonprofit sector for the nonprofit sector. And the main purpose is to establish a framework of how you can use AI responsibly and beneficially. Again, we are not the for-profit sector, so we need to do things differently. But we have a weekly podcast that I co-host with my colleague. We have free virtual summits for the last 3 years. All those videos are on there. So go there if you're just looking for resources, if you're looking for guidance or voices in this space to kind of lean into. It's for you, it's by you. So this is a free resource for you to be available. If you want to download these slides, please don't hesitate to download them. I think we send these out afterwards, Sarah, anyway, so you have access to them. And then if you want to reach out to me, I'm on LinkedIn, and I'd love to hear any questions that come up. I'm hoping that maybe a little bit of a shift of skeptic to maybe not all the way in, but just again seeing like where we need to be different and what we can do to keep ourselves front and center, so that way we're putting AI and keeping it where it's supposed to be. So thank you all.
Okay, Scott. Yes, and we will send out the recording. We realized there was a bit of a challenge with people finding the Zoom link for today, but we were always going to send out the full recording anyway. Scott, do you have a minute for any questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you have a question for Scott, feel free to drop it in the chat. So now, okay, Ruth, or no, Devin. So Devin, you made an agent. Are you saying you made an agent also for filing expense reports, or you made it for yourself and kept it to yourself? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
I mean, does anybody like doing expense reports?
Oh, Devin, oh, you're wonderful. You're gonna answer.
I just quickly, I did make an agent for myself. You doing kind of what Scott was talking about in terms of like this is what my organization does, this is what I do. How can I be more creative, but still under the guise of of working within per, careful AI parameters because we're still figuring it out. So the agent was someone who is like a kind of representative of me, my organization, and I'm using it within our organization's own AI. We work with Microsoft Pilot. I think that's what it is. So yeah,
Oh,
hope that's helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a prompt the other day. There's a person I follow on LinkedIn, Kyle Berend. I might be spelling his last name. The H either comes before or after the R. But he had a prompt the other day of like, analyze all of my threads with you, all my conversations, all my outputs to tell me like where my gaps are and what I'm missing, right? And I went down a major rabbit hole, like realizing I also have a problem with perfectionism, Sarah. Like, so I'll start so many things and I'll build so many things, but I never like finish them, right? Because like I that's just a big hurdle for me. So I went through and built like a persona of someone who's constantly calling me out, like, stop asking these questions. These questions are just blockers for you to actually not do the work, right? Like, just get off your butt and actually do it, right? So it was incredible. Also, my office was a disaster. I took like a disaster. It was like the junk drawer of the house. I took pictures of my entire office. Like, I don't even know where to start. Just help me start. I was like, okay, yeah, calm down, settle down, just focus in this corner, put everything into a box of like throw away, donate, or like settle later. And it was wonderful. So there are all these use cases, but like that doesn't mean it has to do everything. It doesn't mean it can do everything or it should do everything.
I'm still chuckling at the death by 1,000 use cases. That yeah. My brain just kind of seizes up at the possibilities.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
oh no, no, Ruthie wants to use AI to help clean.
Try it, Ruthie. Let me know how it goes.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Scott. I've been enjoying the oh we're just chatting. We're chatting AI with friends today. Jay, Ruthie, did you want to share your tidbit real quick? Oh, you came on camera.
Yeah, no, I just clicked the wrong button. We're good.
Well, good seeing you, Ruthie.
Oh, hi. Hi, bye. Hello, bye. Okay, so terrific. Thank you, Scott, for reminding us of our unique human nature and how we cannot be replaced by AI. We do not need to be afraid, and in fact, we need to embrace all of our humanness as we use this tool.
Mhm.
Um, now,
Absolutely.
another way to embrace your humanness is to, if you're in the DC area, join APRA DCMD for our upcoming river cruise on the Potomac and happy hour. Um, I'm going to put this in the chat. Would be thrilled to have anyone join us. It'll be a little late for the cherry blossoms, but it'll still be beautiful in DC. Good company. I'll be there. Lindsay Nadeau will be there. So come on out. And it's less for members. Your Founder Circle member, it's only $25. All right.
That sounds like a
Okay,
blast.
everyone have a good rest of the day, and we'll send out the recording.
Thank you all.
Again, Scott,
Bye.
take care. Bye-bye.